So we have seen various types of threats related to the cyber security. We have also seen what the impact those threats can have on our organization or also on the personal level. So now we are going to see how we are going to control them, who are all responsible for that. So it's because if you are working in organization, then it's each and everyone's responsibility in the organization to ensure proper information security within the organization. Okay, now there are various frameworks. There are, so you can say, there are various frameworks available across the globe to implement across the organization to fight against information security, cyber security related threats. So one of the cyber security framework is your NIST framework. NIST framework is a framework which is used to, you can say, uh, implement within the organization, which we can implement within the organization to fight against these kinds of cyber security, information security related threats. So for first thing is your NIST framework. Another framework is your ISO framework, which we have discussed. ISO 27001 is a framework for information security management system. In the same way, ISO 27002 is a control for in information security related controls. Techniques are there, how lots of controls are there. The another framework is ISO 27005, which helps us to identifying the risk. So we do have several types of framework. First framework is your NIST. NIST is your one of the framework. Another framework is your another framework, you can say, ISO 27001. ISO 27001 is your another framework. Controls, what kinds of security controls we need to implement to fight against these things are covered in ISO 27002. These are the standards. Another standard is your ISO 27005 that guides us how to identify the information security risk, how to treat those risks, and how to implement controls against those risks. So these are the some standards. One more standard is there, that is for the privacy related framework, ISO 27701. These are the standard used to find out the privacy related things. So we will see one by one each framework. We are going to see what each framework talks, how these frameworks could be implemented within the organization, and how to what kinds of security techniques we can use within the organization to fight against the vulnerabilities and the threats. Okay. Now the first standard is your NIST framework. In NIST framework, there are 5 phases of this standard. The first phase of the NIST framework is your protect phase. This is the protect phase. This is the first phase of the standard. Another phase is the detect phase. Third phase is your respond phase, and fourth phase is your recover phase, and fifth phase is your identify phase. So there are 5 phases of this framework. The first phase talks about the protect phase. In the protect phase, as the name says, it is a protect. Then in the protect phase, we need to develop and implement the appropriate safeguards to ensure safe delivery of our services. So in the protect phase, we are going to identify, we are going to see what kinds of risks are there, how to treat those risks, how to fight against those risks. So we are going to see all in detail in our protect phase. Now in protect phase, there are lots of things we need to do in the protect phase. In the protect phase, the major activity what we are going to do to manage the access to the assets and information. We are going to manage how to provide the access to the assets, how to conduct the regular backups, how to protect the sensitive data, how to patch the operating systems. We need to create a response recovery plan. We need, in the protect phase, we need to protect our system. For protecting our system, we need to have a proper control within the organization. We need to create a proper control within the organization. So we need to identify what are those controls which we can implement within the organizations. So there are, you can say, in the protect phase, we are trying to identifying the control. So what actually the control is? The control, suppose there is a chance of antivirus, okay. If malicious threats are there, or virus related threats are there, then how we are going to protect those from the viruses? We are going to implement the antivirus within the organization. Okay, so we are going to have antivirus installed within the organization. So that's how we are going to protect the thing. Uh, the antivirus is going to protect against the malware. They are what antivirus do? Antivirus is going to identify. Antivirus is going to identify the viruses and threats, and accordingly they are going to quarantine it, going to delete it, or if someone is trying to access your system, accordingly they are going to deny it. So antivirus works upon that. So there are, we are discussing the control types. Controls are put into the place Controls are put into place to reduce the risk an organization faces, and they come into four main part. So what are those things? The first thing is your organizational level controls. The second thing is your people level controls. The third thing is your physical controls and technological controls. So what we have done, we have categorized these things, all the controls, in the four main flavors. The first part is your organizational controls, those controls which are being put by on the organizational level. Next control is your people related controls, the controls which can be put on the peoples. The third control is your physical controls, and the fourth control is your technological control. So there are four types of controls. So you need to remember these four types of controls when you are going to give a job in the field of information security and the cyber security. These main controls would be there. The controls are divided into organizational control, people control, physical controls, and technological controls. Now, there are three types of control types, you can say. Control types of your preventive. Either your control would be the preventive, either your control would be detective, or either your control would be the corrective one. Okay. Now, if there is a risk, suppose let's take an example. We are riding on a bike. Okay. Now, what is the risk there? We may fall off the bike and we will meet with an accident. Okay, so this is one of the risk. Now how we are going to prevent those accidents? The prevention would be that I am driving safely, I will drive safely. Or and what prevention I can use here? I can wear a helmet. Okay, even though the accident may happen, so I will be safe by using the protective guards. So what I am doing here, I am doing a preventive things. Now what would be the detective controls? The detective controls is there, I may able to detect the incidents. Suppose some accidents may going to happen, bef- before that I may able to detect those things. So this would be a detective controls. Now corrective controls, when the incident will happen, your accident will happen, after that you will be taken to the hospitals and the doctor will give you the first aid and all the things. So this would be a corrective control. So the preventive, detective, and corrective. There are three types of controls are there. Now we'll see one by one what actually the organizational controls are. Uh, Four main flavors means you can say these are categorized into four parts. Your organizational, people, physical, and technical. Organizational controls, what the organizational control, as the name referred, organizational controls are the soft controls because they are more oriented from the management. Like management, what are the management related controls? The controls related to the policies and processes. Suppose there are certain policies has been developed within the organization, those policies would be your soft controls. Those policies and process, identification of the risk, policy of hiring of the candidate, if you have done something wrong within the organization, so all these would come under the organizational level controls. Now another control is the control related to the people. Now the people, you have hired an employee, okay, now you are fresher, you are being hired with some of the organization. Now from where you started uh, stealing the data of the organization, okay, so there should be some controls to be putted on you also. Those controls would be the people control. The people control starts from the joining of an employee to an organization and till the exit of the candidates. Now, when you join the organization, the what organization will do? They will check your background verification checks, whether you are criminal or not, whether you are hacker or not, whether you do have any police case against you or not. So these are the things comes under the background verification checks. Now you will be onboarded. Now the another control would be that you need some trainings, you need some trainings to explore yourself, or you need some trainings what needs to be done in respect of the information security or the cyber security in the organization. So those trainings should be provided to you. So these are the controls would be part of your people related controls. Now next control would be your technical control. Now your next control is the technical control, because in the cyber security or the information security, 90% of the control would be your technological related. What would be the technological control? The controls which are implemented on softwares, on hardwares, on the firewalls, uh, authentication authorization mechanism. We have seen earlier also what actually the authentication mechanism is there, what actually the authorization mechanism is there. So all those things are the part of your technical related controls. Now we'll see in details what actually these controls are, how to implement those controls within the organization. Now the next control is your physical controls. Now what actually the physical controls are there? Suppose you are the person, okay, you are living in a house. Now what actually the physical controls you have put it? Some of the houses may do have a security guard, okay, so the security guard is your physical controls. Now when you are going outside from your home, what you are doing? You are putting a lock on your door, okay, so this would be your physical controls. Now another physical controls is your fencing. You do have a fencing within your house premises, this would be a physical controls. You do have a proper lighting within your house, so this would be a physical control. In the same way as we are protecting our houses from the threats which are originating from the outsiders, in the same way we are also protecting our critical information systems. Like we do have data centers, we do have proper servers within our office premises. So what we are going to do, we are also going to protect our physical things also. So this is the now these controls, these control types needs to be put into place to provide a proper defense in that, which is coordinated use of multiple security controls in layered approach. So a layered approach we need to have. We need to have a proper layered approach. Now we need to have a multiple defense system. Now, like you can see in the physical controls, what we can put. Uh, a company A can have fences, locked external doors. Your CCTV cameras also comes under the physical security controls. Uh, no, no, CCTV controls is also your physical security related controls. Your security guard, your logged internal door, your server rooms, your physical security of the computers. So these are comes under the physical security. Now, when we are talking about the technological controls, your firewalls, your intrusion detection systems, your intrusion prevention systems, your anti-malware, your access control system, your encryption, all those things are the part of your technological controls. These are the things which are the part of your technological controls. So these controls depend upon the threats, what actually the threats are within the organizations, what kind, accordingly we need to implement those controls. So here we need to implement the rule of thumb. What is the rule of thumb? According to the rule of thumb, the more sensitive data, the more critical data needs more protections in place. So rule of thumb we need to remember, the more critical data, more security we need to have. No. So we have seen these four controls are divided into three categories. The categories are your preventive, detective, and corrective. Now we will see which controls are the preventive controls, which controls are the detective controls, and which controls are the corrective controls. Like fence, in the let's talk about the physical security control, like fences. Now the fences would be your preventive control. You are fencing your organization or your house, so this would be your preventive control. You are preventing the uh, outsider to have direct access to within your house, so this would be your preventive control. Locks, locks would be also your preventive control. Biometric system, we are using the biometric system within the organization, this would be also your uh, preventive controls. Your lighting is also the preventive control. Now next is your motion detection of the CCTV. Motion detection and the CCTV are your detective control. If something will happen, you are going to detect by using the CCTV features or motion detector sensors. So these are the some controls. Now organizational controls, your security policies, your monitoring and supervisions, your testing facility, security awareness and training, your privacy protection, all those things are part of your organizational related controls. Now, talking about the technical control, there are huge number of lists in the technical controls. We'll see in the details what actually these technical controls do. Your IDS is your intrusion detection system, encryption, your logs, your server, your database backup, DLP, data leakage preventions. All those things are part of your technical related controls. Now, when we are talking about the control related to Physical security, the physical secure sorry people related control. Screening, when you are hiring a candidates, you are going to do the screening. So screening is a part of your people related control. Your disciplinary process, your change of employment, all those things are the part of your people related controls. So there are several types of controls we have seen. uh, these controls needs to be implemented within the organization. Now the questions comes here, how, how we are going to implement these things. So there are numbers of frameworks available, like we have already discussed about those frameworks. The first framework is your ISO 27001 series framework. This standard I will share with you. ISO 27001 series frameworks are there. There are lots of security models are also available. NIST framework also we have discussed. NIST framework, your ITIL framework, your COVID framework. So these are all the framework and the best practices which can be adopted within the organization to fight against the cybersecurity related threat. Combinedly, we can say these are the governance, risk, and compliance related framework which we can implement within the organization to fight against those things. So now next thing what we are going to see, we are going to see how to identify the risk. So these are the things. So this is the first phase. The first phase is your identify phase. In the identify phase, what we are going to do, we are going to in the identify phase, what we are going to do, we are going to identify all the risk. We have identified all the risk. Now in the protect phase, we have seen what kinds of controls we can have within the organization. Now, well, back to the identify phase, we are trying to identify the risk, what actually the risks are, how to mitigate those risks, and how to cure those risks. So